have my lizard on for a video here. Don't normally do that, so there's my lizard. Don't know if she'll just sit there and watch or if she'll try to jump off. So I think it's about time that I show you guys my new gun. So I got this a couple months ago, actually before the whole coronavirus hit, which is awesome because firearm sales went through the roof. Like everything sold, stuff is more expensive, yada yada yada. So I'm glad I got this right before. I didn't plan on it. It's not like I predicted this, but sure, totally. I knew it was going to happen. There's a lot of first-time gun owners, which is actually a really good thing for the Second Amendment in general. I don't want to get into that, but to open it up is a Midway USA bag here. I think it's about 22 inches. And here's what it is. So, of course, with the title, maybe you had, a key if you've seen guns before, kind of familiar, that it is a SIG 556 series, or 550 series rifle. So I won't get into the gun quite yet, but I do have, let's go over what I keep in here. In the gun, I have a Lancer 5 20 rounder with a mag pull, and this is loaded with PPU soft point, which allows for, so there's no over penetration like FMJ. You don't want it to go through a wall and hurt somebody, because this is more of a personal defense weapon or a home defense weapon. So you have a very viable cartridge, a .223 is nothing to mess with. As far as, somebody getting shot with it. So it's very deadly round, and with the soft point, you can use that for home defense and still be safe with other, civilians and bystanders sort of thing. Or for, blowing multiple holes through a wall, for that matter. That's no fun. Moving on to the inside, there's this little flap, and on the flap, there's a couple pouches. So in the first one, we have a second Lancer 5 20 rounder with PPU soft point, same ammo. And then in the other pouch, we have a box of PMC bronze soft point. This is also 223. They're the same weight, 55 grain in both of these, and then 55 grain here. I have it sighted in roughly for about 75 yards. And that's perfect, because if I need to, I can push it out to like 200 max, I would say, out of that gun. But 20 feet, 30 feet in a close quarter situation, if I ever need it, it should still be point and shoot on the dot. And I will test that more as I go shoot the gun more. So moving on to the gun, this is considered a pistol. When I purchased it, it had nothing on the back here, and I'll get into all the features that I added. But I'm going to start from the front and work my way to the back on this gun. First of all, I bought this off of Gunbroker, my first purchase on Gunbroker. And I'm thoroughly pleased with what I paid for the gun. It was pretty expensive. Spent about $1,000 on just the initial gun. But these are very retro. So I could have gotten an AR-15 pistol that did the same thing, if not lighter, more accurate, and cheaper. I'm not that kind of guy, all right? I'm not that kind of guy. I like almost like second cool, or just nostalgia almost. This is like an 1980s Cold War era gun. These were very popular in Switzerland, so, during the Cold War, nothing really happened, or at least most of it was covert stuff. So on the front, we have a flash hider here. Believe it or not, this has quick detached threads for a suppressor. So don't be surprised. I'm kind of looking around, trying to find information on this flash hider to see what suppressor is compatible with it. If anyone knows, let me know. But it looks exactly like an AAC style that kind of goes on and threads and then starts to click and stops. I think this is a bayonet lug here, which is not usable because the barrel's not even long enough. Gas piston system up here, adjustable gas. So there's regular, and then there's adverse condition, and then you can pull that out entirely to disassemble it. This is the fish gill handguard. These are actually very retro. These are like the 80s style. When the gun was originally designed, they had these big fat forends on it, and then they slimmed them out and made, the military versions and whatnot. But this is very retro. I have considered, buying one of the SIG rails, but they're like $200. And I don't think I want to spend that much, considering this is actually pretty retro and I kind of like it. So I think I'm going to leave that. I did take off the front sight. It was a little flip-up sight. I knocked it off, so that I could use my red dot with no riser and keep it low to the gun. Moving forward, the receiver here is, I believe the lower receiver is aluminum and the upper is steel. I don't know if it's stamped. I think it may be stamped. The charging handle here actually has a rubber piece on it, which is pretty cool. It is steel, but just a rubber piece. It is a long stroke gas piston, so that bolt goes very far back. And this is pretty interesting here, how the Swiss, how they put this gasket here. So normally on an AK, there would be an open spot where the selector switch would come down, and you can get dirt and a bunch of crap in there. This rubber is actually good at keeping stuff out. And when you rack it, it just slides through. Slides right through the rubber. Isn't that cool? I love that. And that's just a way to try to keep it sealed up. I'm missing a piece on the bolt carrier. It did break off. I am actually ordering 2 of them to have spares. Are you yawning? I'm going to order 2 of those straight from Switzerland because that's where they have to come from, because they don't make this stuff in the US anymore. Anyways, moving along, we have a mag catch right here, which is actually kind of out of reach, I will admit. I have learned the gun, but I have to reach. See, I can't. ARs, if they just moved it back here, I'd be able to reach it. You know what I mean? It's just a little too far away, but I have learned to just switch and hit it with my middle finger here. So when I reload, I just do that. And I can drop it and go for another mag. Reloads are actually pretty quick, and maybe I'll show that a little bit later. The bolt lock is on this side, and you push up to release it. So it's kind of interesting, and I'll show you how a reload does later. But up, pretty cool. Actually not bad. It was different when I first got the gun, but it actually is very intuitive. Selector switch is ambi. Also, when I first got this, it did need broken in because it was pretty tight. As it sits now, it's very easy to go from fire to safe if you're a righty like I am. Just straight up, you know, it's just like an AR. And it's actually less throw because it's not all the way up. It's like 45 degrees. See it? And if you're a righty, you can do the same thing with your thumb because it's the same size. So you can pull up, yeah. It did have an ambi sling mount, just like this on the other side, but I took a Dremel and cut it off. Here's why, because this is a folding brace. So the folding brace goes to that side. So with this sticking out on the other side, it would not have closed. It would have been like that. It would have been crap. So I literally just cut it off and just kept the stock back plate on there, because parts are hard to find for this gun, so you can't break stuff. So I just left it there. If I end up wanting to do a sling, I can still one-point it and hang it like this. You know, since I am a righty, it'll probably hang like this, so it'll, you know, come across. Then on the back, we have a K&S Precision Picatinny rail mount adapter. I did Loctite that. I actually straight up glued that screw. The brace that's on here is Palmetto State. As you can see the logo on the back, you might not be able to see it. It's pretty small. It is a brace, but you can shoulder it. They can arrest you for shouldering your rifle or pistol. Sorry. Now you could SBR this. The reason why I wanted to keep it a pistol is because it can go across state lines. So if I move across state lines or vacation or whatever and need a personal defense weapon, this can go across state lines legally. It can fold up and fit in this bag, and as long as you're following other state laws and if you have a CCW. Also, with an SBR, you have to be on a government list, and I don't know that I really want that. I mean, I'm pretty young. I don't know. An SBR just hasn't tickled my fancy yet. I haven't wanted to jump into that, or a suppressor yet. Angled pretty heavily as far as holding the gun. I don't mind it. The difference is when I try to get a high weld on it, you know, like try to get my hand up further. Look at this. It's squared. There's metal here, so it just continues up to the receiver. So then you're your palm kind of digs into that lip, and it hurts, especially when you start shooting it. So if you get your palm up there instead of down here, and it's very little room for error. I mean, you can barely see space there, you know, between my the web of my hand and the actual receiver there, which more of the recoil is going to be, you know, hitting that receiver and vibrating there. So I don't know, kind of sucks. I don't know that I can change it, but again, it is a retro gun, and it's not something that's like super tactical. It's just an awesome gun, if you ask me. The brace does fold, and it stays out of the way. You can actually still use the bolt lock on the other side under here. Alright, so here I'm going to go ahead and disassemble it. Hopefully you guys can see decently enough. So I'm going to make sure the bolt is forward, the chamber's clear. Of course, mag's out already. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the proper way. So first what you'll want to do is take your gas key out. And by doing that, you have to push in this little tab and rotate it, and then pull it out. Once you have done that, there would be the little lever on the bolt that you'd pull down to pull the charging handle out, but since that's broken and I need to order the part, all you do is just yank it out. So when that's out, there comes the gas piston there. So you can pull that out with the bolt still in the gun and the gun in one piece. Now the bolt is going to be loose, but you can still slam that back in and get it back going. So I'm going to pop out the rear pin, and then the bolt carrier will come out the rear. I'm just going to hold it up so you can see it. I'm not going to get too in depth with the internals. It is a rotating bolt just like an AK. Right there. The bolt handle goes in there and actually attaches to that. It meets just like that. It's actually a beautiful design, if you ask me. So I'm going to slide that back in there before that bolt rotates, and then I have to rotate it back. I just cleaned the gun too, so and then it got hot, and the metal kind of loosens up, and then the charging handle just pulled out like that. And so the gas piston is just not attached to it very well. So it was maybe moving weird and actually just jammed like twice, 2 or 3 times. And so I let it cool down and then went back to shooting and made sure that was in place and hadn't had a problem since. And that was maybe 400 rounds ago. But it seems to be a pretty reliable system overall. Now, one thing I totally missed was the Firefield red dot. So this came with a 45-degree mount and then also a riser. I decided to use none of that and keep it as low as possible onto the gun. As you can see, very low. It has, I'm not going to get into super detail, but it's got 5 brightness settings. And I will say I have to have it on max brightness when I'm shooting outdoors. It's actually kind of unfortunate. Whereas the red dot on my AR, all the way max, I never use it out all the way max. When it's hot out, or you know, hot and really sunny, I think I turn that to like 9 or 10, and that goes up to 12. This gun, since they're very expensive and barrels and parts are very expensive and hard to find, I'm going to be shooting copper covered ammo, copper jacketed rather. So I like to shoot the steel case because it's cheap, but most of it is bimetal, which will wear out your barrel faster. And on my AR, that's fine because, you know, new AR barrels are like, what, $100 bucks? Maybe 150, 200 for like really good ones. So I'm fine with replacing that and saving a lot of money by shooting cheap ammo through it. But with this gun, I don't want to shoot the bimetal because of how rare, you know, and expensive it would be to change. So Wolf actually has copper jacketed versions, copper jacketed steel case. Now this, because of the ammo prices, this was 10 bucks, so it's 50 cents a piece, which is pretty expensive for steel case. But again, it's the copper jacket, so it's basically like shooting brass case ammo. It's just a steel casing, which doesn't harm your gun. Let me get that out of the way. But for magazines, you saw that I used the Lancers, and this gun loves the Lancers. They work great. I have 2 of them. They're both the translucent, or the smoked version, so I can see the ammo that's in there. I also bought a 30-rounder for this gun. I have 4 MFT 30-rounders for my AR, but I kind of like to keep my mags separate. So like when I go and shoot this, I use the 20-rounders and this. And then when I go shoot my AR, I take the MFTs with the AR. So the really only thing that I don't like about this gun, I guess 2 things. The thickness of this handguard It is kind of thick. I wish it was a little thinner. But that kind of goes out to how retro it is when, you know, an 80s design is not slim, you know. And the brace. So this is rubber, so it is flexible. And it just bends a little bit. When I go to shoulder it, I can kind of move the gun. And so when it recoils, it's not quite as nice as running like my AKV, which for one is a 9mm, not a 223. But with the brace on that, it sits on a buffer tube and it's just solid. With this, it's just this whole thing is rubber. So it just moves. So me and my friend were talking about it. It recoils really weird. When you shoot it, it like goes up and then kind of the stock like returns into your cheek. It's weird because it's not super solid. To go like that, drop the mag, which with spring pressure, it'll shoot out a little bit smoother. And then get the new mag, put it in, and your thumb naturally goes right there. See? And really with any mag, right where your air bolt lock is, to, you know, hit it or hit it with your thumb. This is one motion, and it's up. So it's like this, here and not all the way on the floor. So it's like bang, 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 empty, back into action. So, of course it's all on the ground, but that's just to give you an idea. So it does blast a little bit. It is a flash hider. It doesn't do the best job at hiding the flash, but it's still an awesome gun to shoot. It's very pleasant. You know, all my friends have shot it. They don't say, ooh, that's rough or anything. They like shooting the gun. It's very unique. It turns heads, too. Pretty much it. I've pretty much explained everything about this gun. I mean, it's a fantastic gun. I love it. One of my favorites to shoot. Definitely well worth the money that I spent, because I spent over $1,000 because I had to buy the brace and the sight.
Oh, you didn't see anything?
Not yet.
Oh.
Alright, first mag I'm going to shoot is the Wolf Staircase. It's just 55 grain range ammo. I did sight it in with this for about 50 yards or so, and the zero is pretty dang good, and that's perfect for a red dot. If I need to, I can push it out a lot further, because this 556 will go pretty far.